Okay, so you want to buy a private island. Find a speck of land somewhere tropical, slap your name on it, invite your friends over on a yacht, done. But here's the strange part. You can actually buy a private island for less than the price of a decent house in Los Angeles. Some go for under $200,000, and yet almost everyone who buys one ends up either broke or selling it within 5 years or both. Anyway, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how a $150,000 island quietly turns into a $2 million money pit, why billionaires rent islands instead of buying them, and why owning a private island isn't really about owning land at all. It's about owning a logistics nightmare that happens to have really good views. Let's start with the purchase, because this is where everyone gets fooled. There are roughly a few thousand private islands for sale globally at any given time, and here's the thing, most of them are cheap, really cheap. You can find islands in places like Nova Scotia, the Bahamas, or the Philippines for $100,000 to $300,000. Compare that to a one-bedroom apartment in Manhattan, and the island looks like a steal. That's the hook that gets people in. Somebody sees a listing for a jungle-covered island off the coast of Panama for $180,000, and their brain does the math wrong. They think cheap land equals cheap ownership. It doesn't. Buying the island is like buying the cheapest car at the dealership and forgetting that gas, insurance, and repairs exist. The purchase price is maybe 10% of what you'll actually spend. So where does the other 90% go? 3 places: access, utilities, and construction. Let's go one at a time. Access first. An island, by definition, has water around it, which means there's no road. No road means no easy way to get building materials, workers, fuel, or furniture onto the land. If your island doesn't already have a dock, you're building one. And a basic dock can run anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000 depending on water depth and weather exposure. Then you need a boat or a seaplane arrangement just to move people and supplies back and forth. And that's not a one-time cost. That's every single week for the rest of your ownership. Then utilities. This is the part nobody thinks about until it's too late. On the mainland, you flip a switch and electricity shows up. On an island, electricity is a project. You're either running an underwater cable from shore, which can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on distance, or you're installing a diesel generator and shipping fuel in by boat every month, or you're going solar, which sounds elegant until you realize batteries capable of surviving a hurricane aren't cheap either. Water is the same story. No island magically has drinkable water. You're either drilling a well and hoping you hit a freshwater lens instead of salt water, or you're installing a desalination system, which can cost upward of $30,000 just to set up, plus ongoing maintenance. And sewage, you can't just run a pipe to the city system because there is no city system. You need a septic setup engineered for an environment that floods. Now construction. Building on an island typically costs 30 to 50% more than building the same structure on the mainland, purely because of transportation. Every bag of cement, every steel beam, every window has to be shipped or flown in. And island contractors know they're the only game in town, so they price accordingly. A modest 3-bedroom house that might cost $400,000 to build in Florida can easily hit $700,000 or more once you add island logistics. So let's do the math on a cheap $150,000 island. Add a dock at, let's say, $150,000. Add power and water infrastructure, another $150,000. Add a basic house, $600,000. You've gone from a $150,000 purchase to a $1,050,000 project before you've spent a single night there. And we haven't even gotten to the ongoing costs yet. Here's where the metaphor really clicks. Owning a private island is less like owning a house and more like owning a boat. You've probably heard the old joke that the 2 best days of owning a boat are the day you buy it and the day you sell it. An island is a boat that doesn't move, except it's a boat you also have to defend from hurricanes, erosion, and squatters. Maintenance costs on private islands typically run 2 to 5% of the property's total value every single year. On a $2 million island, that's $40,000 to $100,000 annually just to keep everything from falling apart, before property taxes, before insurance, before staff. And staff is its own category. Most owners who actually live on their island part-time hire a caretaker, because leaving a remote property empty for months invites decay, theft, and squatters. A caretaker plus groundskeeping can run $30,000 to $80,000 a year, depending on the island's size and remoteness. Insurance is brutal too. Insuring a structure in a hurricane zone with no fire department, no easy emergency access, and total isolation means premiums that can be double or triple what you'd pay for an equivalent mainland property, when you can even find an insurer willing to cover it at all. So why does anyone still do this? Because there is a version of the island economy that actually works, and it's not personal ownership, it's rental arbitrage. This is exactly why you see islands like Necker Island or Musha Key renting for $50,000 to $80,000 a night. The owners figured out that the same infrastructure that bankrupts a private buyer becomes wildly profitable when you're hosting weddings, corporate retreats, and ultra-wealthy tourists who will pay a premium specifically because it's inaccessible to everyone else. Scarcity is the entire product. A private island rental company isn't selling land, it's selling exclusivity, and exclusivity has almost no ceiling on price. Book out 15 nights a year at $50,000 a night, and you've pulled in $750,000, enough to cover your maintenance, your staff, and still profit, all while you personally visit for free whenever it's not booked. This is the same reframe that shows up in almost every economics of story. The smart operators aren't paying for a lifestyle. They're running a business that happens to fund the lifestyle. The billionaire who owns an island most people have heard of usually isn't eating that maintenance cost alone. It's structured as a rental property, a wedding venue, sometimes even a documentary filming location. Stacking multiple tiny revenue streams on top of one asset until the math flips from a liability into a surprisingly clean business. Why do most private island purchases still fail, even with all this laid out? Because buyers fall in love with the fantasy before they price the logistics. They see the $150,000 listing, not the $150,000 plus $1 million in infrastructure reality. They imagine paradise, not permitting battles with foreign governments over construction rights, not the 6-month wait for a barge to bring in a generator, not the hurricane that wipes out a dock they just paid for. Owning an island tests something most people don't expect it to test: patience with bureaucracy and tolerance for isolation, long before it tests their bank account. So here's the real answer. If you want the island lifestyle, renting one for a week costs $10,000 to $50,000 depending on the island, and you walk away with zero maintenance, zero staff headaches, and zero hurricane insurance calls. But if you want the island business, you buy land cheap, you build smart, and you turn it into a rental asset the moment you're not using it, because the land was never really the product. The isolation was. And isolation, it turns out, is one of the most expensive things you can manufacture and one of the most profitable things you can rent out.